Let's look at StreamReader and StreamWriter, two projects within your file input and output folder, file IO. We'll look at StreamReader first. It's pretty easy to get started working with the StreamReader. Like I said, this allows us to read from a file. We're going to take a look at how we're going to use this. We're going to be using System IO. That's the mandatory thing we need to do, of course, because we're working with System IO. You'll need to do that with each of the projects within this section. You see that we have just a regular class, no big deal. We're going to be working with try-catch, like I mentioned in the last video. Try-catch is the way that you're going to be checking for your exceptions. You can manage and handle your exceptions down here. Multiple exceptions depending on what you're looking for, what you need to test. The beautiful thing is that you can check for all different types of exceptions, and the block here is going to be something that's great that you can actually have it manipulate and work. And as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know the exceptions that can come up, I suggest you go through the exceptions that are possible. Typical things, file not found, things like that. And if you do that, then you're going to be able to catch everything within the exception block here, which makes it nice. Because each of these lines, as we explained in the try-catch exceptions videos, each of these lines gets executed, or you have loops, blocks of code, and then at the end, after you're done, then it's going to drop out. We don't have a finally block here, but you can check out those videos to find out more about that. But if everything works the way it's supposed to, then you're never going to go into the catch because there's nothing to catch. No errors are going to happen. You're just going to be checking for them, making sure that you're going to work with them if you get an exception. And of course, you can get generic exceptions as well, and you can output that if it's something that's non-standard. But you'll get the idea. You just need to work with this for a while and start to work and see and understand how it's going to be, or it needs to be manipulated. Well, you can see that we're just using the StreamReader here, and we're basically just working with our variable here, and we're going to create a new StreamReader. We're going to pass in a file here. Just pass in a file, and first we'll let the file not be there. That's our, basically we're opening this. The constructor is going to take in a file, and then we're going to actually create a string here for our line, and then we're just going to write out that the file is now open and ready to be read, and then we're going to use a while loop. And this while loop is going to do a read line. You can take a look at XML for how this read line works. You can look at different things we've already looked at as far as console applications and doing read lines. This is going to read a line in from the file over and over again until this S line becomes null, because this is in parentheses. I have spaces here so you can easily see what's going on here. This is the important part. sReader is our object. .readLine is the method call. We're putting that into our variable, and when this evaluates to null, then it's going to drop out of the while loop because it's done. So if it's not null, that means it's something. That means it's not an empty string. So it's going to write line that and let us know to the console what that text is. And then we're going to close after we're done with it. We want to do a close when we're done. That's definitely something we want to do. You want to do this with all of your objects that you're using, especially with your unmanaged resources when you're dealing with files or networks, data, things like that. Alright, so if an exception occurs, we just write it out. No problem. Now, you might think that you might want to have your close down here after the try-catch. Well, you don't want to do that, because if this never opens, because the file is wrong here, the file name is wrong for some reason, you're never going to have something that opened, so that close is going to cause an exception. So this is not where you want to do it. You want to do it with the actual open file here. That's where you want to do it. So we can just debug here. And you can see that we dropped into the exception there. There was a problem with the reading of the file, and then we just have that exception written out that the file could not be found. Okay, well, that's no problem. And you also have to put the file there in your debug directory where your application is going to be, where the executable is going to be. And that's what I have there. It's already there for you. All right, well, then when we do that, the file is going to be opened all right, no problem. Now we have the file is opened and being read. This is a test file. This is coming from the file. This is coming from the file. All of this is no problem. This was written out in the StreamReader example, and we're done. And then we just close the resources. And that's really all there is to simple reading of a file using StreamReader. But the nice thing about this using keyword is that this is going to just use this particular object while it's needed within this block, and then it's going to get disposed of. So this StreamReader.close is nested within the using. We could even eliminate this if we wanted to. But it's good practice to actually close it yourself. But because we're using that using keyword, this is just saying use this StreamReader object as long as we need it. For as long as this block is going to be, or as long as this block is going to be in statements. So when this is done, then we're done. So the while loop, while loop, while loop, and then it comes out and it's done. It's going to dispose of that object for us. A nice thing to use, and I recommend you get into using.